For USCFootball.com, Connor Morrissette, Chris Trevino. We're back on campus after USC's Tuesday practice of Oregon week. USC is 8-2, Oregon 9-1. Big game Saturday, Chris.
Very big game, and a little chilly. It's going to be colder up there in Eugene, but we're excited to cover this game.
Absolutely. We're also excited to give you some updates about what we heard about today. So, 3 key players started the Iowa game and then did not finish. Kamari Ramsey, Bishop Fitzgerald at safety, Elijah Page at left tackle. Let's start with what we think the best news is. Well, I guess we should start with Lincoln Riley did not have an update on any player. He said we'll let the availability report on Saturday speak for their availability. But we think Kamari Ramsey has the best chance to play out of that group. He came out in pads, and that's just our sense. I can give you the mic now. Do you have any more light you could shed on this?
Yeah, I mean, I posted something on the Peristyle Sunday about the injuries to Bishop and Kamari. You can go look at that. But I felt at the time that Kamari had the best chance to be able to play this weekend and get back on the field. And I will say him walking out, he did have a slight kind of hitch, weird gait in his step, but compared to what he looked like walking off the field with that kind of soft knee brace on his knee, he looked 100% better compared to how he was hobbled walking off on Saturday in the rain. So comparatively, he looked a lot better coming out here for practice today. We don't know how much he did. Lincoln Riley did say they kind of lumped them all together, that they did stuff today. I would assume, but I'm still feeling better about Kamari being the one that has a chance to be able to suit up this weekend.
Elijah Page came out in pads, but he did not have his knee braces on, which during his whole injury saga this year, will he play, won't he play, when he hasn't had the knee braces on, that hasn't been a good sign. He's missed a few games, and then he goes down against Iowa. You don't feel very good about his chances, but do you rule him out playing?
I wouldn't rule him out, but the braces are a red flag for me. You know, we look at the pads, the cleats, the helmet. But for offensive linemen, we've been learning to look at the knee braces because all of those guys wear those going out to the practice field. They're preventative for knee injuries, and obviously he's a big human being at 6'7". Those are very important to him. So him going out there without those, that was kind of telling for me, kind of a red flag. And again, I'm not ruling him out for not playing, but just a re-aggravation of that knee injury that he worked so hard to get back from. That's not great. And so for me, I put him at doubtful for right now, but I would still leave the door open for possibility of him playing, knowing it is a big game and we don't know exactly how re-aggravated he did have the knee. But no braces, that's never good in my opinion.
Neither of us, expect Bishop Fitzgerald to play Saturday, so we can leave it at that. No official ruling from anyone at USC, but just our thoughts with that based on conversations we've had. Wayman Jordan, Chris, comes out in pads, holding his cleats, wearing sneakers, but looks like he was doing stuff, as Lincoln Riley said. But then Riley, after practice, said we don't expect to have Jordan on Saturday because of that tightrope surgery. It's just tough for a running back to come back from that ankle surgery. Any chance we see him? I mean, I take Riley at his word. Every time this year with injuries, he's been straightforward. I don't expect to see Jordan, but maybe if he progresses, there's a chance. I don't think Riley totally slammed the door shut, but he didn't make it sound good.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually surprised he said as much.
Me too.
That, he's probably not going to play this weekend. I was surprised he said that. I thought he was going to say he's getting closer, we'll see about this weekend. No, he said he's probably not going to play. Maybe there's a trick up his sleeve or two with a big gamer, but I just don't feel like he's ready to play. I mean, he came out in the sneakers, holding the cleats, in the pads, first time since, he went down against Michigan and had the surgery, which is great and all. I think I even said, I was like, I bet Wayman's going to come out. Yep. He was questionable on the injury report. I bet he's going to come out this week in pads, knowing, a lot of eyes are going to be on that. So he did. But it just comes down to trust in his ankle again. And this is something we've talked about before, and just he's a special player because he can cut, he can stop on a dime, he can make all these players miss because of that ability he has with his body control. And the fact that you're coming off a surgery, tightrope surgery on the ankle, you need your ankles to run the ball, you need your ankles to do what he does so well. So if you don't have trust in that body part, it's one of the big reasons why it takes time for athletes to come back. You can't just be clear and, all right, go back to where you were before. You have to trust the knee again. You have to trust the ankle again. You have to trust the shoulder again. You have to trust all these things. and he hasn't really had a chance to build up the trust. He hasn't practiced. He hasn't obviously played in the game, so he hasn't been able to build that trust in his ankle once again. And that's so important for any athlete, especially a running back, when they're doing the cuts and you got a linebacker coming down on you, you got a 300-pound lineman caving in on you. So you gotta have that trust, and I don't think it's there yet for him. He hasn't had the opportunity to build it. So for me, it was always going to be a tough task to have him come back against Oregon in this game in the cold, in a good defense. It's going to be barreling down on him. It was going to be very tough for him to make it back for that. So I just felt like it wasn't going to be he wasn't going to be ready in time for that. So I'm still holding on to that feeling.
If he probably won't play this week, why was he listed as questionable last week?
You have the same question that Shotgun had, and I was butting heads with him on the Helium Boys. You can go listen to it or not. It was a very unhinged podcast, so I apologize, but I just didn't. It wasn't real to me. I don't know. I think maybe obviously they got caught up in the whole Brian Jackson thing, the snafu. So having him as questionable gives a little bit of a reasonable doubt. I would say, maybe if they lose everyone, they could go to Wayman, put him in pads out of the halftime or whatever. It was like a super emergency breaking glass, and I think that's why he was questionable. But again, he didn't even warm up. He didn't come out in pads. He didn't give any sign like, oh, maybe he's going to try to give it a go. There was none of that. I only saw him once. It was coming out of halftime, and he was in like the rain jackets, and he was walking with a little bit of limp. So I just don't feel like he was ever really an emergency. But that's just my thoughts. And I don't know why he was on there. I don't have that definitive answer. And again, maybe it was just and if we need him, emergency kind of dealing, because they were down Harry Dalton, so they were already down a running back. They moved James Johnson over to running back for this game, new number, new position, all that. So I think they were just trying to fill the depth and have one in the chamber if something drastic happened like it did in Michigan, or for the Michigan game.
It's like when your phone's locked and you got to make a call, you're in case of emergency contact. That makes sense. Braylon Shelby didn't finish the game for USC against Iowa. He suited up today. You mentioned Harry Dalton. He was technically questionable against Iowa, did not play on offense, I believe. He's out of his boot. He was in a boot earlier in the season, like a couple weeks ago, so it's good to see him progressing, or maybe last week, not a couple weeks ago. James Johnson had a defensive number back, and then Jakeem Stewart did not practice today. But as we've talked about all year, one on, one off with him.
One on, one off. I do want to add Prophet Brown, who we haven't seen all season, did come out carrying his cleats, which means he probably was going to do something out there. So, again, he's not playing this weekend or whatever, but I think that's just a nice little progression of his rehab. We haven't seen that this season. Sometimes he doesn't come out at all, and he comes out later with the rehab guys, but he came out today not suited up or anything, kind of wearing the rehab cardio outfit with his cleats in hand. So it looks like he was doing something in the cleats. So I just think that's a nice progression for him.
Hopefully he can get a medical red shirt and come back next year if that's what he wants to do. Lincoln Riley today in the backwards hat again, Chris. Your thoughts?
It's the vibe. Third week in a row. They've won.
3 wins in a row?
Three wins in a row. I think we are in agreement that it means something. He's fired up. He's fired up. You think it maybe means a little something deeper than that, but I don't know. It's just the vibe right now. You got to do the next incident with the backwards hat with Riley.
I don't wear hats much.
Yeah, I know. But Shotgun wears hats. I got the backwards hat going. We need to get you in on that train.
Maybe. My crackpot theory is he's just saying, look, I'm Lincoln Riley. I know how to win. I know what I'm doing. I'm wearing my backwards hat. I'm enjoying this. Kind of like sticking it to everyone a little bit.
It's an attitude.
It's an attitude.
Backwards hat Riley feels different from frontwards hat Riley. Frontwards hat Riley is, the head coach, the ball coach, the professional in the camera, business suit kind of deal. Backwards hat Riley, yeah, he'll let the spit go in the scrum. He'll do the little like you got something on your thing. He just
did he do that to you?
No, that's just the vibe that's going with. He's a little more edgy is what I'm talking about with the backwards hat.
Well, I asked him why he showed so much emotion after that Iowa game because we don't always see that, and he said, well, I don't always do that in front of the cameras. I didn't ask that question the way I wanted to. I wish that I phrased it a little bit differently. I just wanted him to talk about maybe how that game was different than other games, but he just said it wasn't different. The fact that I did it in front of the cameras was different, but even that is a little bit different than what we're used to seeing. He doesn't usually act like that. It was a huge win, Chris, because it builds evidence in what he's building, clearly.
Yeah, and it was an emotional game. There's coming back down from 14 at home in the rain when everything's stacked against you, Iowa was built to run out that lead. It's just a bad start. And then to be able to dig in, belief, the culture win kind of quote, all that felt validating for him. And obviously it's going against Kirk Ferentz, who's made some comments about Lincoln Riley and this program and the defense comments about reinvesting in defense, yada, all that. So there was a little bit of extra emotion on top of all that. And just just making a huge comeback like that against a really good Iowa team, a ranked Iowa team, to keep their CFP chances alive, which, again, they're going to be put to the test this weekend in Eugene. So I understand the emotion. I understand jumping into the big teddy bear. Sean knew his arms there at the end. So, yeah, it was a fun game to cover, but more games are ahead and a big one this weekend.
If you're still watching here, a little over 10:30 in, you're welcome, because, Chris, we saw a burned boat, what we thought was a burned boat, at practice today. They opened the door, we can see a little bit inside, and we saw a burned, what looked like a canoe. What is that all about?
Charred boat, the charred remains. As you mentioned, sometimes you take a peek in there. They usually have the hurdles, and the players do their little extra stretch, which is something new that Tremaine Carroll has brought over. But today wasn't hurdles. They brought out hurdles, but we didn't see those. Something caught our eye, and we tried to put our heads together. It was like, I think that's a boat. So we moved to the side, just trying to kick the front. You know what a front of a boat looks like. It's pointed. This one looked like a two-person canoe, so me and Connor could go down a stroll maybe. But it just looked like mutilated. It looked
burned.
It looked rusty, and there were pieces. And it wasn't in there when we got to go in after practice. So it was only there before practice. And then we got in. There was like chips of wood on the ground. You could see where something was obviously there. There were pieces that were charred, that were burned, like you would find in a fire pit at the beach or something like that. It looked like that. So, as we know, USC has adopted this kind of model of burn the boats, which is something Lincoln Riley told the team after the Notre Dame loss, moving forward, and it's basically saying there's nowhere to go but forward. If we want to go to the college football playoff, we have to win all the games. There's no looking back. We have to move forward. So burn the boats, because we're not going back. So that's been kind of the mantra, and I guess this is a physical metaphor to reinforce this mantra this week, knowing that Oregon is kind of like the game. Obviously UCLA ahead, but Oregon is the game to make it happen. So you have this boat. It's been charred, not burned to ashes, but it looked like they took a blowtorch or something to it. Parts of it were burned, parts of it were holed up. I don't know. It looked unusable, which is the point.
Couple things with that. They didn't burn it on the field. It was already burned when they brought it in. So my question is, when did they do it, and who really pushed for that? Who thought that was a great idea? Because I like it. If the whole team burned a freaking boat and they're playing better now, that's awesome. So we got to talk to Lincoln Riley Thursday about that. We didn't ask him today. I wanted to get more information before we just went in and said, why was this burned boat here? And I think we learned a couple things. So
many follow-up questions. Was there a permit? Was the fire?
When did they do it? When and where? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Who? When, where, and who?
Those are the important questions in journalism.
I guess how? Torch?
There's so many matches, I don't know.
I think we know the why, right?
Yeah, I mean, motivation.
Yep.
It's the mantra of this team.
Amazing. Switching gears, Jay Norvell, the old Colorado State head coach, he was here today. Sometimes you hear in college football, when a coach gets fired, he was fired at Colorado State this year, they will become an analyst somewhere else the rest of the year or the following year. We asked Lincoln Riley, why was Jay Norvell here? Was it an analyst kind of thing? Riley just said he knows some guys on the staff, and he was just here visiting today. I believe Norvell hired Chad Savage at Colorado State. So he's not working as an analyst, but I think any time at this point in the year when USC has so much to play for, if you can get a helping hand, get some eyes on a certain situation or a certain play that you're running, I'll take it. Any collective thinking right now is huge, and any advantage that you can get bringing in bringing in anyone can be helpful potentially. It's a game of inches, as we saw against Iowa, Chris, and maybe Norvell helped him out today, or maybe he was just visiting.
We'll never know. Maybe we'll never know. But yeah, just whatever you can to get that little bit of extra advantage, especially going to this game, which I keep talking about. Big one, Connor. We know. We're excited to cover.
We are. We did hear from a few players, and we can get to that now. Killian O'Connor, I asked him how he always is able to come back from these injuries, because they always look pretty severe. And he must have an incredible mindset. I mean, he does. And he just talked about how there's no justice in football. I understand that. It's not fair. And when I get hurt, I just need to work as hard as I can to get back. He's the classic case, Chris, of everyone had that mindset, had his edge, had just the intangibles that Killian O'Connor has, every team would be undefeated every year, I think, because he is just, they don't build him like Killian O'Connor, man. He is built different.
Yeah, he is, and that's kind of that walk-on mentality. I know he's on scholarship now, but he was born out of that. His dad was a walk-on. His grandfather was a walk-on. I believe his grandfather was the one that got put on scholarship, or maybe his dad. One of them got put on scholarship, but the point is, he comes from a line of walk-ons. He has that grit, that determination, that I'm going to keep going no matter what kind of personality in him as a football player, and that's why he's made a great leader. That's why he's made a great juice guy, and talked to Tobias Framus. It was great to have him back. He's an excellent leader, so it was great to have another leader back out there along the offensive line, especially after losing, Elijah Page in the course of that game.
Killian O'Connor, I asked him as well, does Kalen Miller remind you of you at all? And he said, well, Kalen's way more athletic than I am, but his mindset and work ethic and just him being a walk-on and playing, it does remind Killian of himself. And so the fact that USC's been able to do this twice, where Killian O'Connor and Kalen Miller are playing really important snaps against Iowa and USC wins and they play well, it's pretty impressive.
This has been like the year of the walk-on
Yep.
for USC with King Miller, Kalen. I'm putting Killian in there, or Kalen and Killian in there as well as a former walk-on. The starter.
Josiah Zamora fielding kicks,
And then Ryan Sayeri, one of the best kickers in the country, Lou Groza, semifinalist, which was announced today. So walk-ons have played a huge role in this team and the success of this team. So got to show them love when we can.
We heard from King Miller as well. I asked him, did you know your brother was in after Elijah Page got hurt, and did you find out in the huddle? He said, it was all a blur, and I saw him in the huddle, so that's funny. And I asked him, have they had much time to reflect on what they've done this year? I know they're in the middle of a huge season here, and they got Oregon, and everything's still ahead of them, so I didn't think that the answer would be yes, and he said no, but he's really looking forward to reflecting back after this year because it really is special. For just one of those guys to have their moment or moments is great, and King Miller's had a bunch, but for Kalen now to get in multiple games, and sometimes he's in the heavy package, like, he's a big part of this team. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're talking about the reflection where you're just kind of looking down, moving forward, not kind of looking around, kind of doing your job. And sometimes it's nice to look up and see how far you come. And obviously this is a very special season for both of them. And we would be shocked if they weren't on scholarship next year. So it's been one of those years. And I think he could hit 1,000 yards, which would be incredible for, a true walk-on in this day and age. And
who didn't start the year as the guy.
And he's had some really impressive games, and I don't know where they'd be without him. So he's been a huge part of this team and a huge part of the success, why they're still in the running right now for a CFP berth.
I have one more question, but before we get to that final question, any final thoughts from you?
No, I think I'm good. It's been a good instant. It's been our second instant because we had to redo it because the drummers, as you can hear, we were like right next to them. Well, we were there first, and then they came over and started playing, so we had to redo this whole thing.
Because they play here on Tuesdays, so we avoided them, and then they came to us, but that's what happens.
No, that's not what happened. They were like, nah, that's not what's going to happen. You're going to listen to us up close and personal. But
they're the students, so they can drum wherever they want. We're just complaining. It's just funny that worked out that way. We avoided them, and then they came over and ruined our video.
we could have uploaded it, but we were like, no, people are watching these. Like, they were getting a lot of views on these, so we wanted to make it right for you guys. But as of right now, no, I don't really have any more final thoughts.
Well, my final thought is this. I think USC goes into Oregon this week and is playing with house money. The pressure is on the Ducks. For USC, if you finish 9-3, that's still a very successful season. How does that affect this game? And I know USC's not looking at it like that, but I do think there is some of this at play, and they'll never admit it, but I do think that is at play. What do you think? Am I off on that? Thoughts on that? How does that affect this game?
No, I'm in agreement with you. I think you're going in there. Oregon obviously has the pressure being the home team, higher ranked. A lot of people are going to pick USC to lose this game. USC is expected to lose this game. They haven't won there in a while. The Ducks have had their number the last couple times they played. Oregon is better on paper in a lot of areas, not necessarily a skill position. This is not a great matchup for USC.
I agree with that.
It's not a great matchup. They have a super good rushing offense, Oregon does, and really good quarterback. And again, they don't have the typical skill, but USC's secondary has gotten better, but it's not, an elite secondary, so it doesn't match up that well. But With USC, no.
They have a chance.
But they have a chance. I think there is a version of this team that can win in Eugene. They have the talent to get it done, but do they have the execution? Because that has been the big issue on the road. We know they play so much worse on the road than they do at home, and it's really drastic. So this not only has to be their best road game performance of the season, it has to be their best overall performance of the season if they want to walk out of there, and they are capable of that. But will they execute and be able to put it all together in this moment? And I do think they have a certain degree of pressure not on them, because as you said, they are going there with a little bit of house money. A lot of people are going to pick them to lose. I don't think a lot of people expected them to be in this sort of do-or-die situation, but they can go into this playing a little more free than I think Oregon can play. And I know they're playing at home, but whatever. I think USC is going to be able to go in there and be like, hey, we're ready to go, baby. Let's just go. Let's see how it happens. And that's why we play the games. Upsets happen all the time. And again, I'm not saying it'll be like a massive upset. USC has talent across the field, but they have not played well on the road. But if they find that flow state in Eugene, they can absolutely do it. And I think playing a little loose will help them with that.
They burned a freaking boat, we think, so anything's possible. He's Chris.
They burned it, yeah.
He's Chris Trevino. I'm Connor Morrissette. What a wacky instant this has been. Helium Boys was a little wacky, too. Just a wacky week. We'll see you tomorrow for another version of Instant Analysis. Hope you can tune in then. Bye-bye.